Hello everyone, in this session I am going to give you an overview of what is Office 365. Now the presentation works in kind of two ways. In the first case I'm going to very quickly go through every single application, but really quickly. So in my head I'm trying to do it within 5 minutes. And then what I'm going to do is go into a bit more detail on different applications. So, and what I'll do is at the bottom of this, if there are applications that are more relevant and interesting to you, I will put a link to each of those applications. So bear with me here. So now we're going to go through to look at each application, but not dive into it, just a very brief overview. So here I am in Office 365. So Office 365 is an online productivity platform that Microsoft deliver, and it's included in, millions and millions of people have this, which is why I'm doing the video. Now what I'm going to do is, in order to get to this part here, you need to go to office.com, www.office.com. And that will take you to this screen. What I'm going to do is going to go through to all apps so that we can talk about each one of them in turn. And I'm going to go through these at top speed. So the admin is not something that you need to worry about. It's, and like I say, if you know about it, then it's relevant to you. Calendar does what it says on the tin. It is a calendar and it's part of Microsoft Office, so it's part of Outlook. Compliance you don't need to worry about. Delve is for finding things. Dynamics 365 you don't need to worry about. Excel is the online version of Excel, very useful. Forms is a way of creating forms that can be used either inside or outside your organization. Kaizala is essentially it's WhatsApp for Microsoft Office, but it actually works better on on your phone. Than it's not really designed for the cloud experience. My Analytics we're going to cover later, but it's essentially it's a well-being, what are you doing most of. OneDrive is a personal tool for keeping files that are specific to yourself. Onenote is a note-taking tool that you can use to record. You can put files in there and so on, as well as images and notes, and it's very good for searching through. Outlook is the online version of Outlook, which we all know and love. And just remember that Outlook effectively is made up of calendar, people, and there's going to be calendar, people, and there's one more thing, and I'll find it straight away, and tasks as well. That's what Outlook is made up of. Planner is a place that you can go to plan series of tasks and share them out with other people. PowerApps is part of, along with Power Automate and Power BI, is a part of the Power Platform, and PowerApps in particular is for creating apps either on your phone or for the PC. Power Automate is an automation tool, and we won't be spending a huge amount of time on it. Power BI is a data visualization tool. PowerPoint is something everyone's familiar with already. It's for presentations. Project is a much more advanced version of Planner. So it's about developing plans and resources and so on. Security, we don't need to worry about too much for the purposes of this. SharePoint is an online collaboration space. It's a place to keep things, and it's also a way of presenting elements within your organization, whether or not they're files and so on. Social engagement we will skip over. Stream is for your videos and is a brilliant tool. Sway is a slightly different, potentially simpler way of creating presentations that can be used on a phone or and it will reshape itself. When we'll see that later on. Tasks is, we've seen this already. Essentially, it's Outlook tasks. Teams is an online. It is a collaboration space, and it includes SharePoint within it. So it's for meetings and files and conversations about those. To do is a personal task list. Video is the predecessor to stream. Oops. Excuse me. Predecessor is it's a predecessor to stream. Whiteboard is what it sort of says on the tin. It is for people collaborating to express their ideas on essentially a digital whiteboard. Word is the online offering for of Microsoft of Word, and although it works online, typically you'll want to sort of store it online but work on your own computer. And finally, Yammer is a social media platform that is specific to your organization and sits within your organization. So that is a 90 mile an hour way of looking at Office 365. What you can now do is you can either watch through the rest of this video where I go into a little bit more detail and show you some screens, or you can look down below in the links to see the things that are most interesting to you. You can link directly to that part of the video. So good luck with the rest of it, and by all means do comment if there are any things in there that are of interest to you. Admin is not something you need to worry about. Calendar, we'll just jump straight into the calendar and have a look at it. I don't use it, but only because the calendar exists in so many other places. For the most part, it exists within with Outlook. So I'm going to jump into here. And so this will show all my appointments and so on, whether I got Teams meetings, that sort of thing. So you can see you've kind of already gone into, although it's called calendar, you've ended up in Outlook. And you can see in the bottom section here that you can there are different things you can get to. So you can get to the mail, etc., etc. What I'm going to do is look at that when we get to the Outlook section. But here you can see that you've got meetings, and if I go on to, for example, a meeting here, this was a test session. I can actually go into there, and you can see when we talk about Teams later on, I could join this Teams meeting. Now it's actually in the past, so it's not relevant, but there you go. So I'm now going to come off this and move back to the previous screen. So we had admin, calendar we're not going to do, so we have done. Compliance, you don't need to worry about compliance. It's something that probably won't even light up for you. Delve is a way of finding things in your organization. It does depend on whether it's been turned on for your organization. So Delve is kind of where you think, oh crikey, where's that file? Well, I'll go and have a look in Delve. So I think what I'll do now, I'm going to search in Delve. I don't actually use this very much, but let me just look up accounts. There's actually a spreadsheet that I've got. It's called something like accounts, and I can never find it. And you can see, yeah, it's okay. Now, this Delve is actually looking inside the actual documents themselves. So it is quite cool if you can look inside it. I mean, as I say, I mean, I'm pretty sure I've got a spreadsheet called accounts, etc., etc., and I can't see it here. So let's just see what happens if we go for documents. It might be slightly different. actually we seem to be getting more results here under this. And then maybe what I'll do is I will jump into one of these. I've got all sorts of things here, but you can see there's lots of different products and so on that I'm getting to choose from. So it's all about finding certain documents. So that's Delve. I think you can find people in there as well. So I'm just going to check that. So I'm going to check and then put test. I'll just put test and see what it comes up. So I've found a document with test in it, and so on. So it's quite useful actually. So the next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to come off Delve, and now we're going to look at. I'm going to ignore Dynamics 365. Most organizations this won't actually be relevant for. If it is relevant for you, you'll get all the right training and so on to be successful with it. So I'm now going to look at Excel. Now, everyone knows what Excel is already. This is the online version of it. And the thing to note with Excel, I'm jumping into it now, is that whenever you make a change online, I've just gone into a spreadsheet, every time you make a change online, it is immediately saved. That's what's quite cool about it. The other thing to note is if you're doing that, you can actually see it says saved up there. So if I put in, I don't know, 300 here, you can see it's saving at the top. That's the thing to note about this. And the other thing to note is that more than one person can be in the spreadsheet at the same time. You can only have up to 50 megabyte size spreadsheets, which is kind of okay. And a lot of the functionality of Excel, you won't be able to get on the online version. And at that point, if you need to get access to it, you actually click open in desktop app. And then what that will do is open, I'm going to say the desktop version of Excel. Now, I thoroughly recommend that you are keeping your spreadsheets online, and we'll come on to that when we look at the relevant sections. So when we look at SharePoint and so on. So this is the same spreadsheet, but this is the desktop version. And so if I kind of change this value, make it, I don't know, let's call it 900, what you'll see at the top is now it is saving it to online, but it takes longer. So that saving process when I was online was quick. This saving process takes longer. So I'm going to come off that and come off that and come off this as well. So I'll go back onto the all apps, and now onto forms. Forms I love forms. It's a brilliant way of collecting information. So if you go onto forms, it is what it says on the tin. You create a form and you get responses to your form. Now, I typically combine this with SharePoint lists and so on because I'm typical. It will probably only work for you in your what they call your default environment. So I've just changed that to what I know is my default environment. And at that point, you can create a new survey. You can just click on the survey and there's lots of different things you can do. So you can see you can add a new question. It can be a choice, a text, what it might be. What is your name? Then the next one, and you can see you can do things like whether or not it's required or not. There's ratings type questions. I'm going to just delete that. There's lots of different, essentially it is surveys, and once you've done it you can preview it and so on, but that's the purpose of forms. Now the other thing to note with forms is you can send them outside your organization as well as get them filled in inside your organization. Kaizala, lots of fun to use this. Now it's actually essentially WhatsApp for Office 365. It's quite cool. I quite like it. It's not particularly well known, and obviously the less well known it is, it kind of only makes sense when loads of people are using it. So the typical way in which you use it is actually use it on your phone. That's the purpose of it. And the reason it's called Kaizala is because over in India, where it was first developed, that's Kaizala means, a kind of what's up, hi. So that's why it's there. It's taken a bit of time to get there, but in reality, Kaizala is something that you actually use on your phone. So I'm not going to wait until this gets into Kaizala, because it's not. So this is a management portal. So you kind of go in, you put your phone number in, etc., etc. Add your phone number to get started. Slightly worrying because I've done it already, but you do it from your phone anyway. So let's come off both of those, and we will move to my analytics. Now, my analytics is something, essentially it is just to do with, like, how much are you doing of this, how much are you doing of that. It's essentially a well-being type product. So it means that if you are spending a lot of time when you're online, then it might sort of suggest to you that you are spending more, you don't have enough time to focus and so on. So it's relatively new, so by all means take a look, but it's not, you can live without it. So OneDrive now. So I'll just come off that. So Microsoft OneDrive is a place that is personal to you, where you can store files. So I'm going to go on to it, and I'm going to show you just a very small amount of things that you can do with it. So I have loads of files, as you can see. Now, one thing that I quite like doing with this is I quite like going into, they've got this one to do with Kylo, that's quite nice. So what you can do with it that is quite nice is you can actually synchronize what is in a folder with your own computer. And the way you do that is you click the sync button here, and what that will do is it will create a folder on your computer, and you can drag files in there and it'll send it up into the cloud. So it's quite a nice experience, but ultimately it is a place where you can create and put files, and it's it's a safe place. I think I will just keep it there. You can see that you've got you can create new different documents, etc. So go for it there. And you can also see this is something to do with Power Automate, which we will pick up later on. So OneNote is a place for capturing notes of all different kinds. So it, like a lot of these products, it did start off life as a desktop product. So I'm just going to go into OneNote. I personally don't use it that much. Doesn't mean it's a bad product. It's just different ways of working. So I'm just going to jump into this one here. I have no idea what it's going to say because, as I say, I don't use it too much. In fact, what is this thing doing? I think, as I say, because it isn't something I use a huge amount, then it does explain why I can't actually see it. So recent, so there's my notebook. So you really ought to be going into an actual notebook, and they're really, really brilliant at searching across. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to, I think I'll fire up what notebook on my computer, notebook. Oh, it's OneNote, isn't it? OneNote. So I'm going to fire up the app on my computer, so it'll actually appear down below, and then I'll move it on top. But you can see, look, I think it's the sort of thing where you gather loads and loads of different thoughts, and this is at least a version of the app. So you've got different sections. I have no idea. So you have notes. In fact, this is one from a long time ago that you can put different things into, and you've got tabs. It's kind of an Excel type feel, but you can put images and all sorts of things, and you can search across it very, very easily. So that's OneNote for you. And if you did it in this way, it would actually synchronize online. So that's OneNote for you. I'm going to hit the back button at this point, and we'll go back to where we were. So that was OneNote. I'm going to just remove some of these tabs. Outlook. Now this is kind of the daddy of all of them. So, or like lots of organizations, the first thing they move is going to be their emails, etc., etc. So what I might do is I might move on to like a test account. I mean, I'll have blurred all the different bits and pieces on here, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you that this is my mail, and it will correspond exactly to the mail that is on my Outlook on my computer. So here is Outlook on my computer. And you get the same sorts of experience. In fact, they're probably an alignment of the icons as well. So so you can see you've got the mail, you've got your contacts, you've even got tasks, which I don't use too much. Let's see what you've got there. Not much. And there's a calendar, and the calendar is brilliant. So so if you remember, we looked at contacts before. So so this is really useful. This is the desktop version. Typically, if I'm organizing meetings, what I will do is I will go into here and I will organize my meeting from here. So say, for example, I wanted to make one here. I will do new meeting. I'll just click on the meeting. You can actually make it a Teams meeting from there. You click the meeting, you do the times. So I'm on the desktop version now of Outlook. But what I'd like to do, if I can, is show you, that's because it's not on my same screen. I'll just show you that most of the time, I'll call it test 1, 2, 3. Now it's actually in the past, this one, but let's say it's 8 till 8:30. But note here that you can actually make it a Teams meeting, and then that will I think I'll probably have to actually say what the team is. It's a Teams meeting, and then what you can do, if you forward that meeting to people, then they can actually access it. So if I click send, I haven't I'll put tester. I've got a user called tester, and then I will click the send option. Occurs in the past, it doesn't matter, send anyway. What I'd like to do is show you that meeting appears, and this is on my computer, but it should synchronize up to the cloud. And so I'm going to click there, and I'm going to click down there. I think it was the 23rd of April. So there we are, test 1, 2, 3, and now you've got the online experience. So we could have made the meeting using this. In fact, this meeting is popping up all over the place. I'm going to cancel that. But you can actually see that because it was a Teams meeting, I'm going to discard this. Because it was a Teams meeting, I can actually join online at this point, join Teams meeting. And these Teams meetings, you know, once you've set them up, you can just join them anyway, which is quite a nice way of, rather than calling someone, a meeting is better because anyone can join it actually at any time. So I could click join Teams meeting, and then it fire up Teams and so on. I'm not going to do that yet because I'm going to look at Teams later on. So what we've done there is we've moved on to Outlook. People, look, it's just contacts. So I'm going to click on people. It's not something I particularly go to very often. If I do see many people, I'll just blur them out anyway. Yes, you can see contacts and so on. This is just not how I particularly maintain my contacts. So essentially it's just maintained from people that I have contacted in the past. And you can then interact with them, send them emails and so on. So it does what it says on the tin, but in reality you can see it's just the contacts part of Outlook. So Planner, I actually really love Planner. Planner is really good, and it does what it says on the tin. It is for planning tasks. So if you go into Planner, you can create them very, very easily. I'm going to create a simple plan. You just create new plan. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to show a plan that I've previously created and show that you can have different buckets. and you can move task between buckets, or you can actually go onto the task and you can say that you've done it. The other thing that you can do is you can assign tasks to certain people. So I can put tester in there, and I can assign that task to tester, and they'll get an email, etc., etc. It's quite a nice way of organizing tasks, and it works very well in conjunction with Teams. So, and I will show you how that interacts. So that's Planner. The next few, PowerApps, Power Automate, and Power BI, the three of them taken together are called the Power Platform. Now, PowerApps and Power Automate are very, very closely linked. Power BI is not so closely linked, but works incredibly well with the other two. So, taking them together, PowerApps is about building low-code applications that allow people to that they are apps, but I think the way to think of them is it's almost like the first way to build them is to build essentially they'll look like a bit like web pages, but they're very interactive, and they're actually quite safe because you have to authenticate to them, use your password in order to build the apps. Power Automate is all about creating repeated tasks. So these are tasks with actions and triggers and actions, but they repeat themselves over and over again. As this is a basic session, I'm not going to do too much on Power Automate, and Power BI is data visualization. So I'm now going to start with Power Apps. Power Apps is, I love Power Apps. I've done literally hundreds of videos about Power Apps. It's a very, very rewarding tool. I think what I'll do is I will just show you a simple app. So if I go to apps, I can navigate around the place. This is a little app that I've used for being able to tell stories. You can do things like share them with people and so on, and they connect to data in your organization. This particular one is an app that is a tablet app, so that means it is shaped, to the size of your. It's designed to be used essentially on a web, and this is just an app where you get to interact with it. So I'm clicking on the screen here. I can go next and go back. In fact, there's actually sound effects on this thing. It shocked me a little bit there, but essentially it is a low code environment for building you could call them web pages. They feel like web pages. There's a lot of interactivity on them, but it is still low code. This is the French version of the same story, but everything you see, they can be so different. So people make games with them, all sorts of things. I make a lot of games with these, and I'll just sort of show you another version of an app. So there's this is where I keep my training notes, but this one is much more typical of how you do it. This is actually this one would work quite well on your phone, actually. In fact, it's actually a phone app turned on its side, and it allows me to navigate between things. I can create new training items just by clicking on the plus, and it'll pop up any second now. In fact, an entry is required. You enter the data and off you go, and then that appears here. And there's also images and so on. There's so much to this. I can't really, it's hard to know where to start. So that's Power Apps. As I say, Power Automate for a beginner session isn't worth covering, and Power BI is all about data visualization. So this I'm going to I don't even know what report I'm going to fire up. So Power BI is is where you people will typically have prepared Power BI reports for you, and that will mean that you can see that it is a graphic. I mean, these are kind of trivial graphics, if you like. So it is a place that you can go to, and it is how organizations are able to describe themselves from a data perspective, and it is hugely interactive. So if I click on this, then the bit at the bottom will filter and so on. This is a really trivial app, but you can a trivial Power BI report, but you can have reports that actually look at millions and trillions of rows of data. So if you do get given a Power BI report, it is essentially a data visualization tool. PowerPoint, well, that's quite nice, really. So PowerPoint is something that we're all probably quite familiar with. The online version is quite good. It's no harm in keeping it online. Personally, when I author my PowerPoint presentations, I do it in the desktop version. But I keep them online. So this is the PowerPoint that we started off with today. So I'll just hit the back button on this to get us back to all of the apps that we've got. Project. Now that is interesting because I've not actually gone into detail on this. I noticed I think that you would need to be licensed to use Project, so I'm not going to get too into that. I think if you're going to get into something on as far as that's concerned, Planner is your thing. I'll just click on it just so that we've actually shown that we've seen what the screen is. But Project is actually a bit like Planner but on steroids. So it allows you to plan a project and resource it and all those wonderful things. And it's just going to come up here. You can see that I've never created one here, and you know, but it is a product that started out life in a desktop form. So most people would probably author it in that way. Security won't be something that you will get to see, so don't worry about that. SharePoint is extremely important because it did start out life on premise, as they call it. This is the cloud version. It is very, very good. It is a collaborative place in which to store files and present information. So if I go onto something like this, I don't create very good sites. But what you can see in here is this is a shared space for me and a group of other people, and what I can do with that is I can see the members here, and then so these two members here, so it'll be me and someone else, are the only people that can get into this space here. But if I wanted to add members, all I would do is go there and just type in test. There are other ways of adding them, but I'm not going to get into that. So, and it is a place for storing. Information. So if I go to the documents, I'll be able to see that I've lots of folders and so on. And we will touch on this a little bit more when we look at Microsoft Teams, because they are very closely related. So these are essentially, I think these are folders, and inside the folders there would be information. So you can sort of see the dots here. So these are folders. So inside this folder, you can actually get information. Now, if I click on this, what you'll actually be able to see is this sync option here is available to me. And what if I can do is I can synchronize that and make sure that all of that information there then exists on my computer. Do be careful when you use it, because if it's a very big SharePoint site, you'll get everything come down, which may clog up your drive. So that was SharePoint. Yeah, and believe me, that was a very small version of SharePoint. Social engagement I have not used before. It's not something I've had the need to. I think for a beginner's session, I'm not going to touch it at all. So I'm just going to I'm going to move directly on from there. But in fact, let's just dig into it. Let's have a look at it. It can't even be reached. I'm not worrying about it. I've not used it before, and it's not something that's it may be quite new. Stream I absolutely love. I love. So Stream is wonderful because it allows you to put videos into a shared space online, but as well as putting those videos on there, what it actually does is it there's you can see it's just things from home videos that I've got on there at the moment. But one thing that is really cool on it is if you go onto it, then this is like a kid's. You get an immediate transcript of it. Now this is a terrible one because this was done like years and years ago, and there's trains going and all sorts of things. But it does a very, very good job of doing closed captions on there. So let's see if we can see one which has got a slightly better audio on there. In fact, I will do. This was me opening my MVP thing a while ago, but it does have good audio. So here's what's cool about it. So this is me opening it. Blah 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 blah. Wonderful, right? But what you can do is you can search through here. So I'll do Microsoft. And if I press enter, I didn't say Microsoft. How bizarre. So let me just see you. I'll just type in 2020 because I saw that down the bottom there. 2020, and it shows you that that I actually saw the word 2020 in there, and it will go directly to the. And I'll see you in 2020. Okay, cool. So it's really cool. I love it, and it works incredibly well with PowerApps as well. So you can put videos inside these apps that you do. Not enough time for that. Sway, I don't use it too much, but it is. It's a way of, I don't use it that much. So why don't we just literally look at this is a featured sway. It is a relatively straightforward way of creating these presentations. As I say, it's just not something I use very much. So you can basically go between different pages and so on. It's relatively straightforward to create, but personally, because I'm someone that uses PowerApps, then I don't need this. So there's a lot of things in there that it make it a bit more straightforward to do, but it's just not this. It's been out for quite a few years, and I'm sure for some people they love it. I'll just have a look at one I've done already, see if there's anything there. It's so old anyway that the title of your sway. This is me editing a sway. I would dig it. It is a kind of a nicer presentation format, I guess. But it'll be more like customization and so on. So that was Sway, and apologies to the Sway team if that was very briefly switched over. There's an interesting one here because you've got tasks and you've also got to do. Now I have the feeling that what we'll find is that tasks, create and manage tasks in Outlook. So that's your Outlook tasks. So that's one way of doing it. And then what I'll do is I'm going to go on to Teams. Teams is probably the most important thing for us to be looking at. So Teams is an online collaboration space for people to have meetings and share documents. So the first thing to know about Teams is that every time you create one, you're actually underpinning that team with an entire SharePoint site. So places with files and folders and so on. So I'm going to open this now. Go into Teams. This is my tenant, so there aren't many teams in it. so what we'll do is watch it fire up, and I'll just show you that there are a number of teams. Now, I've done videos on this, so I will put some links to videos that I've done on this, but you can see that there are numerous teams, but you may be teams in a team that is not in your organization. So I've just gone top right here, and when it wakes up, it's going to offer me different organizations of which I'm a member of different teams. So it's not just your organization, it is other organizations. And the cool thing about teams is that, say for example you have a team, you can have conversations with your team. So this is a team that me and my mum have got, and so we've just got little bits of chat. It should be a team that me and my mum have got, but it doesn't seem to be showing my chat. But I have been creating new ones all the time, so it might be in general. Have a quick look. So we should see, yeah. So there's different things here. You can see a chat. You can do things like at people. So at tester. Now that tester may not be in the team. It not found any matches, and that's because that the tester is not in the team. But I could make them part of the team, and the way I'd do that is I'd go onto there, manage team, etc., etc. A collaboration space. But note that when I go to files, what I'll be offered is there's an option to see it in SharePoint, and so open in SharePoint there, that will take you out to SharePoint, and then you'll be able to, you're basically in SharePoint at that time. So if I do that, what you'll see is there's a particular folder structure that is relevant here, and so you've got documents general, and each time you create what's known as a channel, you'll end up with another folder in there. So it's just another way of getting to it. But I think the one thing that we should do on Teams is just to know that if you manage the team, then that will mean that you can add a member, and adding members is really important, because then I can put my tester in. If I put my tester in, go add, and then that would mean that if I go close on there, it is really important that we actually that we do look at this. So if I do at tester now, I should tester. There we are. The tester is an option, and what that test 1 2 3, and what that will mean is that tester would then get either a notification or an email or a bit of both. So it's a very good way of sharing things. And what it is good to do is have different channels and so on, but we haven't got time for this. So online collaboration to do is what it does says on the tin. So it is lists of things that you need to do, and you kind of check them off. But it's a very simple version of that. So I have got some tasks on there, but I've got a bit of a preference for planner when I've got tasks that need to be completed. So there you are. That's those are my various tasks and so on. Back there. So video, I'm going to suggest you avoid video just because it is the old way of housing your videos, and Stream is the new way of doing that. Whiteboard is a place where you get to share ideas and so on. I just think that the nature of a whiteboard, unless you've got I will click on it, unless you've actually got a touch screen device, then it's not going to be an amazing experience. So it's kind of optimized for being able to kind of share, create a new whiteboard. You click on the where is he? You're about to join this whiteboard. But it is particularly, look, if you don't have a touchscreen device, then it's not going to be very, so you can see that you can do different things. I mean, God knows what. You can write on it, but it will do things like recognize text and so on. But, and I suspect that it's better in the app than it is here. But, and what it does mean is that more than one person can be actually writing on this board at the same time. So that may be useful to you. There's a lot more features to Whiteboard. You can create grids and all sorts of things, but I wouldn't describe it as being amazing for interacting with the rest of the Microsoft Office portfolio. So for example, if you put data into a whiteboard, the rest of the platform won't really know it's there. So then looking at Word, everyone knows what Word is. So Word is, this is just the online version of Word. God knows what this thing's going to come up with. There's lots of things here. Let's see if I've actually got anything. Michael Sweets, it's probably some project he did. It is the online version of that. So this is I can just create it. This is just a document that they will have created, but it is an online version of Word, and so it's a similar experience. Did we even talk about Excel? I think we did. So I'm going to just click on this one here. It's actually creating a new document for me, and I can put different bits and pieces. It's just Word. But bear in mind that the minute you make an edit to this, it is immediately saved when online. So there we are. Now we're getting towards the end of things here. So I'm going to come off Word, back off there, and let's just see where we are. Yammer. Now, this is a bit of a dark horse really, because Yammer is social media for Office 365 now, and it says here, connect with your co-workers and classmates, share information and organize around projects. But it's a much wider organizational way of it's not so much collaborating, it's more kind of shout outs and so on. So you can see here that people can do things like that, and you can like things, you can do you can put GIFs in and so on. So you add a GIF and you can kind of go you can kind of do kind of funny things, test, post, but it isn't necessarily a place that is for projects themselves. I'm sure there's all sorts of ways in which people all the ways in which people use it, but just think about it as social media within but it is confined to your organization. I don't know the extent to which you can go outside your organization. For the most part, let's just think about it as an internal networking solution. And we're just about falling off the end of the world. In fact, we're not going to worry about any of these things further on down. There'll be repeats and all sorts of things here. And I am just going to go back to the main screen. So we have covered an awful lot of ground. This is just another way of getting to things there. I'm going to click the back button. In fact, I'm just going to go to office.com. And this will take me to the standard screen that you get set up with. And notice that because I clicked on a few things, I've got more things to choose from now, which is why you need to go to all apps in order to make sure you have got everything. Thank you for sticking with this presentation right through the end. I hope you found it useful. Make sure you like it and share it. And I hope to see you again in other videos in the future. So if you do like this sort of video, make sure you like it. And if you want to be notified of any videos in the future, then click the bell to make sure that you will be notified.